These are 4 well-known Link to the Past runners, and look, they're out to start now. And
here we go.
With the hook shot in Link's house and Ether
goodness.
and Sank Chest. Wow, that's
okay. Well, that's quite a start.
Yeah, that hook shot's going to let him fly around this overworld. Not as fast as the boots will, but it's definitely the 3rd fastest item behind boot and flute.
Absolutely. I would actually argue it might even be above the flute because it makes so many locations so much faster to navigate.
And you see here the 2 runners that started in Link's house are going directly to the Uncle, where the 2 runners that started at Sanctuary are off to do Houlihan.
Interesting that both of them are going to do Houlihan. The Houlihan play seems to kind of go in and out of style, and see a lot more runners doing it now in Keysanity than before. Ooh, Eastern Palace Big Key, I think. And
that was Eastern Palace Big Key over at the Uncle, where you find a lamp sometimes. Yeah, in Keysanity, I think you see the Houlihan trick done more because the way the logic works, because there's more keys in the logic early game, there's less rupees. So this allows you to get a nice little 225 head start, lets you buy bombs, lets you hit the bottle vendor without worrying about the luck factor of finding like 50 rupee or 300 rupee stashes.
Absolutely.
So now all 4 of our runners have both the key items that the other ones already had now, so we're on our way over towards the Kakariko. Kyong and Duke are going to do the bomb farming just south of Haunted Grove. Kirby's now off to do Houlihan, and PikaPals is heading straight up towards the poultry, and maybe we'll check what's behind the lumberjacks.
Yeah, it's interesting that we're, getting on the left and the right side of the stream here, kind of, until SlimKirby did this Houlihan, we're just getting this really weird, mirroring going on here. It's across 4 people. It's interesting to see them all end up taking the exact same routes.
Just a piece of heart behind the lumberjack cave, so Aghanim not required for that just yet. Kyong is doing the play that I like also in Keysanity, which is don't just look to see what the item is, just go straight to the item. Because usually something good, and he's not going to turn down these 3 bombs, even though it's not a required item. It's the 3 bombs you need to finish off Kakariko.
Definitely it will, allow him to route the village a lot more efficiently, because he'll just be able to walk straight up through, grab the chicken hut, and head up to the north.
Alright, so if you're just watching this and you're used to Randomizer but not used to Keysanity, the main difference is that all the keys they see, like that big key of Misery Mire, they're all scattered throughout the entire world, not just in their respective dungeons.
Yeah, and it's a major mindset change, for the game as a whole. In open mode or standard mode, you're all about, how many dungeons am I going to get to go mode? In Keysanity, it's really about how many dungeons am I not going to double or triple dip? Because the way that these keys line up, sometimes it can get pretty complicated, the intended route through the world.
See, there's a big 20 in the library, so that won't be required. I believe we saw the back of the tavern have one of the Ganon's Tower small keys.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we see a bottle, so that'll allow them to round a sick kid while they're here.
That's the dream. Anytime you can get the bottle, the flute, or 100 rupees when you come into this town, you're always very, very happy. Unfortunately for these runners, like we've been seeing, none of these, sort of visually checkable locations have had anything that's gonna haunt them too much.
And the sick kid delivering the goods, giving the hammer.
Oh my goodness, what a start! What a start!
So hammer hook shot already. That gives them a lot of Death Mountain access once they get the lamp and gloves.
Absolutely, or for most of these players, I expect just the gloves. Yes. It won't be in logic, but all 4 of these runners very comfortable with most of the dark rooms in the game.
Small keys to Misery Mire, not the best find because to complete Misery Mire, you actually don't need any of those keys. We see Quake in the well.
With 2 out of 3 medallions, you've got to start, thinking about Turtle Rock and Misery Mire because, we're in pretty good shape. Odds are, to be able to go into those dungeons if we have the keys and the other items. So I would expect to see an early Turtle Rock or Mire check if we get the supporting items.
So it looks like Kakaroo so far giving the goods away in terms of items, not so much keys. The small keys we found have not been the required ones. Found one GT small key and then 2 Meyer keys and I believe 1 Skullwoods key. None of those are really required to finish the seed. Like, you need 1 Ganis Tower key technically to finish, but you don't really need the Skullwoods ones or the Meyer ones.
Absolutely.
So all 4 runners just going around Kakariko. Basically, everyone's doing something else that the other one's done already. So by the time they're all out of here, they'll have their hook shot, they'll have both medallions, they'll have a bottle, and they'll have a few keys to go along.
Now, the interesting thing is going to be, where do we go after this? And it'll be interesting to see if we get some divergence here, because we've got the, sort of typical South Hyrule route, where you're growing and grabbing the dam and the mini Moldorm cave and maybe a couple other things. But with that Eastern Palace big key showing up really early, it's going to be very, very tempting to go over there and check Sahasrara in that dungeon. With the hammer, we've also got perfect, a perfect way to complete the front, at the very least, of the escape. And there's quite a few items in all of those locations.
Yeah, I think these runners, after finishing off doing what they have to do around here, they'll probably head on over towards the south shore of Hyrule, hit the dam, hit Mini Moldorm Cave, maybe even Ice Rock Cave. And PikaPals is the first one to leave the area, so he's going to the south, but he's not going straight to the dam. Looks like he's going straight to the southeast.
That's interesting. Skipping the dam is an interesting choice. It's a relatively quick check, especially with the hook shot, on account of being able to hook through the block and avoid the second trip in and out.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those areas that it's considered Sphere Zero, where you don't need any items to access it. So it's one of the things you can check in the early game just to get out of the way.
Absolutely. And especially this Mini Moldorm Cave is 5 items. It's a very, very high value location relative to the vast majority of locations in the game. Even, it's as good as Eastern Palace. So.
Small key to pod. There'll be 6 of them in the game. And
pod
a lot
keys.
Of rupees. Jeez.
Yeah. Very rich seed so far. Pod keys. Ooh, big key. What do we got? Swamp Palace. Okay. For anybody who's not familiar with the routing here, pod keys are one of the most important sets of keys that you can get. And it's also one of the areas where Keysanity runners have the ability to differentiate themselves based on what sort of skills and techniques they know. The difference between knowing certain techniques or not is 2 small keys in pod, depending on what items you have. In Keysanity, that's a pretty substantial difference. It's the difference between rushing through the game and spending 45 minutes looking for more pod keys. So,
yeah. Logically, you would need all 6, but because the way you could glitch through, if you have the bow and you know how to do what's called the hammer yump, you can finish pod with only 4 keys. Now we see Duke and Kirby going down towards the dam, so let's see what we have here. And they will use that hookshot trick that you were talking about to basically make it a 1 trip through instead of the usual 2.
Yeah, and it's a great early game technique to learn. The screen transitions add up, and so when you get into the higher level competitive players, minimizing those screen transitions becomes a real boon.
And there's another small key to Dark Palace. So that's 2 of the 6.
It's off to a good start.
Yeah, we still have no sword, but we have the hammer, so that's plenty good enough a weapon.
Absolutely.
Also,
for the first... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, until you get Tempered Sword, in many situations, if you're good with the hammer, it can actually be your preferred weapon. So these guys are not short a good weapon right now. There are only a couple bosses in the game that are actually really scary with the hammer, that can actually be damaged by it.
Yeah. What I was going to talk about was the Swamp Palace big key that we found. That actually,
pod key.
Yeah, no, that's 3. So pod looking very attractive once we find Dark World access. But about that Swamp Palace big key that SlimKirby and DukeFireBird just found, that only opens the big chest. There's no big key door in Swamp Palace. Same with Skullwoods.
Absolutely. Swamp Palace is also one of those dungeons where literally almost the entire dungeon is gated by a single small key. There is 1 Swamp Palace small key to find somewhere in the seed, and it gates the entirety of the dungeon.
Yeah, so that Swamp House small key, especially if Swamp House is a crystal, is almost as important and elusive as the Ganos Tower big key.
Absolutely. Interesting. So Kyong looks like he may be making a play towards checking the Desert Ledge and getting Agha's Cave. This is an interesting choice, and I think it's potentially a really interesting one. Agha's Cave is very much out of the way, but it is in that, so-called sphere. I think it's actually sphere 1, those locations that are immediately accessible. So it can be a lucrative check in certain cases.
Oh, PikaPals set up
no.
a Death Warp but had the fairy, forgot about it. Oh, and the Moon Pearls in Nagina's Cave.
Oh my goodness, what a play. Fortunately, there's only so many of these Sphere 1 locations, but they do have quite a lot available to them even before getting that Moon Pearl. So it does look like Duke is going to try and fake Flipper with the Pearl. He's going to be able to get the Waterfall Fairy Cave chests in addition to probably checking Hobo and getting confirmation here and being able to walk up to Zora with all of these money. Or with all these rupees, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Duke doesn't have the Moon Pearl just yet.
Oh, I'm sorry. It was Kyong who got
it. Pika now sets up a Death Warp in the next floor. The last chest in Escape, Zelda's chest, had a small key to Turtle Rock, which is another one of those keys where if you like gambling, you only need 3 of them, but there's 4 of them needed to complete the logic.
To beat the dungeon, you can get away with 3. To clear the dungeon, you're going to need an extra one.
Hobo only giving 50 rupees out, so stealing from the poor, Duke, aren't you? Looks like PikaPals is doing the Dark Room in Escape, so he's going to be a little blindfolded here, trying to get his way to this one small chest. But using a hook shot as a good buffer
Absolutely.
is a sound strategy.
Aside from the unfortunate Death Warp attempt that ended in fairy usage, I really like this early check of the Dark Room here. It's lamp is a really common item to be used by the logic as a sort of funnel for a lot of things, and being able to do these checks quickly and efficiently can be a huge win. Even when you don't get an item out of them, removing those possibilities early and quickly can be a huge advantage for the players.
I think Duke wanted to check the waterfall, but then he realized he didn't have the Moon Pearl, so he really couldn't. So he's just going to swim to Zora, see that there's only bombs on the ledge, so he doesn't have to come back for that. And we're going to see if Zora has anything of value for us today.
Getting a little bit scared by those Zoras there. I don't blame him for jumping out of the water at that point.
As it looks, PikaPals is going to be the first one to head over towards the Sahasrara/Eastern area.
It looks like Kirby may be making the same play, but Pika's going to beat him there just by a little bit.
Zora has a key to Castle Tower, which is more commonly known as Aghanim's Tower.
That is an interesting key. So there are 2 chests in the front of it, one of which is in the dark. With 1 key, you can get both of them. Looks like Pod is going to be our green pendant as well.
Yeah, Pod green pendant with the 3. It's our 3rd bottle, and the power gloves.
All right. Well, there you go. So we do know that we have Dark World access here in not a lot of time if you make the right choices, but that Agha's Cave, I'm expecting to delay a few people for sure.
Uh-oh, is Kyong going to do the same thing? I think he's singing for Death Warp. I hope he doesn't have the fairy still. All right, I don't think he grabbed the fairy bottle yet.
Well, good for him.
Yeah, look good for him. He just has the 1 bottle from the bee in the bottle that he got from Kakariko.
Yeah, it does look like both of our players in the Eastern area are going to dive the dungeon. And, I think having gotten that big key super early, players have different approaches to the game. A lot of people like to, sort of follow the breadcrumbs, right? And see, what the logical chain of events might have been supposed to be. And certainly following that Eastern Palace big key is not a bad idea at all.
Yeah, we can't complete the dungeon without the bow, but we can definitely open 1 extra chest here. So definitely worth it to get out of the way, because you can always route killing Armos in with the mirror and visiting Pod later on.
Absolutely. It would be amazing if we got the bow here, though. And, that vanilla bow could be could be happening.
Yeah, the trolliest place you put an item is its vanilla location.
Absolutely. I would argue unless it's an Eastern Palace, because that's such an easy early game check, maybe it's not actually that trolly.
How about the map for Meyer? That's another big key we have, so it's going to be good information to see if that's going to be a crystal or a pendant.
Absolutely. What do you think is the trolliest item to put in its vanilla location? I think it would be vanilla hookshot in Swamp Palace.
That's pretty bad. I think actually it's a hammer in randomizer.
That's another really, really good one.
So also, if you're new to Keysanity, the maps and the compasses have a little bit more value than you would originally think as a player, because the map will tell you whether the dungeon that the map is for is a crystal or a pendant, and the compass, as you see on the HUD for PikaPals, the compass will keep track of how many items you found in that dungeon. So we found 3 out of 6.
All right,
Stun prize is big 20.
That's not a bad one. All of our players are now converging on Eastern. So far, we've gotten a lot of heart pieces here in Eastern. I think I've seen 2 at the very least, but not a lot of progression.
So it'll be interesting if Kyong continues the Eastern Palace, because once he grabs his power gloves, he will have Dark World access.
Absolutely.
The others do not. They have not been to Agina's cave to get that moon pearl just yet.
Unfortunately, with the hammer being our Dark World, or our most likely Dark World access right now, well, no, it's the one we're going to have. That allows us to do a really early check on the bomb vendor in the Dark World, which will let us know what crystals 5 and 6 are, which is really, really useful information to have in Keysanity.
PikaPals making his way through the easiest dark room, well, one of the easiest dark rooms in the game, which is the one on the east side of Eastern Palace. Just gets you access to this one chest, the vanilla big key chest here, and we have another compass.
All right, so Eastern not really paying out, but also not a huge time loss and a good play. It's a lot of chests that are available very early. PikaPals with those gloves, I'm going to assume with the save and quit that we're probably heading to the back of Escape, and that appears to be the case.
Yeah, that's definitely a good check to do once you find those power gloves. Get these 3 chests back here. Not a huge loss because you're
Absolutely.
right back Sanctuary.
And with that, he'll have cleared the entirety of Escape. So that's, one really kind of weird location to route in that he'll just have out of his brain. Another useless Meyer key. Ooh, but the Hera big key is definitely a nice one to have, given that we've got, sort of the majority of our Death Mountain toolkit right now. He may actually choose to go up there. He can actually get all the way up to Hera and check East Death Mountain right now. That is not a hard dark room.
It won't be in the logic because he doesn't have the lamp yet, but it's definitely a good check that's worth your time if you do know this dark room, and I'm pretty sure most of these runners do know the easy dark room to get
Absolutely.
from up the mountain.
I think this is after the Eastern dark room. I think this is one of the dark rooms people usually learn fairly early on. There's no enemies inside of it, so as far as dark rooms go, it's at least pretty safe to mess around with.
I mean, I think the pod basement's also pretty easy, and those are the 3 that I know the most. This one, the Eastern first one, and the pod basement.
Yeah, the one everybody is always afraid of is that pod dark maze, and after that, Misery Mire. Both of them have pretty reliable strats, but
back of Eastern's also a little tough. I've done that only a couple times. I can't do it reliably.
Definitely true. Little known fact, though, if you do have the fire rod, if you walk into that room and just shoot straight up, there is actually a torch that you will light.
Old Man didn't have anything of value, really, so PikaPal's going to head up to Death Mountain. He's going to see what's on top of Spectacle Rock, even though he can't grab it yet, get good information. Then he'll see what's inside Spectacle Rock, and if it's good, he'll go and grab it.
Yeah, I really like this routing decision. There's a really convenient drop down that puts you almost past all the really annoying dead rocks on the way to the east side, so he'll probably just walk to the right and drop down. Just a rupee.
Yeah, there's the big 20 inside and just a vanilla piece of heart on top, so he's going to use the strategy you said, dodge those dead rocks, jump on down, hook shot over to the east side, and see what's hiding over there.
So the one unfortunate thing for Pika, kind of the worst case scenario for him routing wise, is if he picks up the mitts up here. Given the items that he has, if he had that Moon Pearl and he were to find mitts up here, which is definitely far from being out of the question, this would be a huge play for him. Unfortunately, without the mitts, he's definitely, or without the Pearl, he's definitely coming back here again later.
Yeah, the Pearl, once again, if you're just joining us, is in Agina's cave, and Kyung's the only one that's been over there, and I think Kyung will be heading over to either up Death Mountain, like PikaPal's done already, or he might head over towards the portal and enter Skull Woods in that area.
I think both very interesting choices for sure.
So Pika got his 4th small key for Pod, so that's now completable. He also grabs a shovel and a big 20.
Yep, we're just looking for that bow now, but at the very least, with that number of keys, the whole back of Pod is accessible. And that is a bunch of chests.
And Kyung is going to make the play. He's going to head over towards this portal and check out what's hiding out in the Dark World. He'll be the first one in the Dark World. Duke's probably going to be second because he's heading towards Agina's cave now.
Yeah, it looks to be that way. It'll be interesting to see whether Kyung opts to head down south immediately to Thieves and the rest of Village of Outcasts, or if he goes and checks the front of Skull Woods. I'm a big fan of the Skull Woods play, especially when you're coming over here with the hammer, because it's kind of expensive to route back around here and grab the portal. And it looks like we are getting that Skull Woods check while Pika heads into Tower of Hera.
Oh, he's not grabbing a map. That's interesting. Maps are usually good information to have.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those items you're very much in the habit of skipping immediately and with great... Ooh, and the Ice Rod, I believe. And,
yep, that was the Ice Rod.
Skull Woods. But in open mode, you get very used to seeing a map and just walking away because you never care. But in Keysanity, information can be really, really valuable and hard to come by. It's not just available to you at all times.
So it looks like now he has the Moon Pearl. Duke's going to be the first one to enter the Dark World over here. He'll probably go to that bomb vendor, see what the red crystals are. He'll also visit Hype Cave while he's down here.
Absolutely. So some people in chat are asking about the pedestal, and what I would say is I think we're a little bit early to be thinking about pedestal hype. Oh, very cool bomb jump back across the Tower of Hera gap there. We're a little bit early for the pedestal. There's a lot to check here.
So Kyung saw that there's a small key on Bumper Cave, and Duke's heading through Hype Cave and finds a Turtle Rock big key and a blue mail.
That is a nice upgrade to have.
Yeah, especially in the Dark World where all these enemies bonk you for 2 hearts. Well, now only bonk you for 1.
Absolutely. Yeah, green mail in the Dark World is no joke. No matter how many hearts up to a point, no matter how many hearts you have, it can be scary.
Mire and Ice are regular crystals.
All right.
It's got that map check on Duke's side. And the map that Slim skipped, or that Pika skipped that Slim just saw, is Thieves Town. We said Turtle Rock and Eastern are our special crystals for the Big Bomb.
Very nice. With the medallions that we have early, plus the Eastern Palace big key already being a thing. That's great.
Mirror in Thieves Town for Kyung, and PikaPals sees that Hera is just a red pendant. So Hera was not the play. There was absolutely nothing going on in there. Well, there's still a basement, but we don't have a small key yet, so we can't check that basement. Or a fire source, for that matter.
Absolutely. I definitely agree with the play to come up here, though. I think if you don't already have the Moon Pearl, this is definitely the choice. And this is what we're seeing. This is that, that Agana's Cave check that nobody wants to make early, making a huge difference in the routing choices that our players are making.
Yeah, this just to show you, don't logic break at home, kids. Okay, I'm gonna finish up. Finds a vanilla Thieves Town compass in Thieves Town.
You gotta love the vanilla items. In the current version of the randomizer, for anybody who doesn't know, you can identify the vanilla dungeon items by their lack of a text box that pops up.
Well, For the maps and the compasses, they'll still pop up, but for keys, they will not.
Even for the same dungeon?
Yeah, because when Kyong just grabbed that compass, it said this is a compass for
Interesting.
Stan.
I guess I never paid that much attention to the maps and the compasses.
Yeah, I just noticed that. It's only for maps and compasses. If you find a key and it doesn't pop up, it's vanilla.
Oh, very cool. I do believe the keys are getting a text box in the next version of the randomizer, which I'm kind of sad about, to be honest. But it's a good change, I think. That big spot not paying off, unfortunately.
No, just 10 arrows. Not anything good. Kirby's in his Moldorm fight. Hammer, it does temperature damage, but that hitbox, though. But he gets it done.
The key thing with the hammer is to try not to be hammering upwards. The upwards facing hammer hitbox is one of the worst hitboxes in the game, whereas to the sides and down are not quite as generous as the sword, but not too terribly bad.
So PikaPals is now going to check the dam, and he's probably going to route in the Gina's Cave after this. So this routing actually is going to pay off a little bit for him because there's nothing really too relevant here at dam that he would have missed out on, just a small key that's not even really necessary. But he's going to head over to Gina's Cave and get that moon roll that he desperately needs.
Yep. Fortunately, there's only so much of the Sphere 1 stuff to do. So, our players are going to get over there no matter what. They're going to converge.
And the Titan Smiths are in K45 for Kyong92.
That is quite possibly one of the most convenient locations to get that item for him. He's now going to be able to jump right back into this warp and walk up directly into Village of Outcasts from here, which is pretty great.
Well, he's already been in the Village of Outcasts, and now he's going to be able to, he's probably going to do the Lumberjack now. Not the Lumberjack, the Blacksmith.
Oh, yeah. But, still, he can take them right up, whereas otherwise he would have had to grab them and actually save and quiet and go back around the other way. Also, I just realized that what I just said was completely dumb, so ignore me, I've got a cold.
PikaPals and SlimKirby found a book. I didn't see where they found it, though.
Yeah, I missed that.
Maybe because those two went to Hera, maybe it was in Hera, or somewhere on Death Mountain.
Entirely possible.
If that's the case, then this desert check is also a sequence break.
True.
There's a spiral cave. Okay.
Yeah, okay. And what's on the torch? Just a big 20. Again, all of these visible vocation checks not hurting our players. It's kind of shocking, actually. They've been very fortunate across the board.
Yeah, we've only seen one. That's Bumper Cave has a small key. It's the only visible item we've seen that's been worth anything, worth going back towards. Ooh, Kana Samaria from the Blacksmiths.
Oh my goodness. That is quite a find.
Looks like PikaPals and SlimKirby both now going to head over towards Agina's Cave pretty much at the same time. They both get their moon pearl.
I think what's interesting about that Kana Samaria is, again, with those, we've got the hook shot, we've got the Titan's Mitts, we've got the hammer, we've got 2 out of the 3 medallions. The only thing we're actually missing to do that dungeon is a fire rod.
We need fire rod to finish Turtle Rock, and we need flute to really finish Mire. I mean, technically we need lamp also, but let's be real, guys.
Yeah, the lamp not so concerning for most of these players.
And Duke found the flippers in that. So Kyong skipped one chest in Skullwoods, the one chest that's way in the back. DukeFireBird finds the flippers in that chest.
Interesting. Well, that's going to make things really interesting if we find that Swamp Palace small key somewhere.
Yeah, because Kyong probably won't check that chest until he gets fire rods. We can route it in. So yeah, if that fire rod is in a really trolly location, like if it's flippers locked, second Turtle Rock small key from the purple chest. And now Kyong, he doesn't have the book yet, so we can't check Mama's tablet. PikaPals going to do his hype cave now.
Yeah.
Again, pretty hyped to get a required big key and defense upgrade, so hype cave a little bit back.
Yeah, You know, it can't be hype all the time, right? But, you know, I think lately it behaves like a 5-item location, you know, which is all you can really ask for.
PikaPals with those 4 keys for. Oh no, he's not going to go to pod yet. He's going to go probably route pyramid and then check catfish out.
I think so. It's unfortunate that he doesn't have the mirror, because I don't know if did he go all the way up to Zora yet?
I don't think so. Thieves Town is a crystal though, and DukeFireBird's in there now. He'll get his mirror. That's where the mirror is, here in Thieves Town. And the 4th bottle is sitting on the on the side of the pyramid, and PikaPals is going to say, "I got 3. That's good enough for me."
I can't remember the last time I got 4 bottles, much less
half hour in.
Yeah, you know, I mean, so Kyong heading north now. It'll be interesting to see if he looks like he's also going to go to the pyramid. And Pika decided not to go up to Catfish. Instead, he routed back down south, and he's going to go to Pod.
He might wait for Mirror to check all that. Little does know, Mirror is just sitting in a very accessible chest in Thieves Town.
Yeah. That said, I think with 4 keys jumping into Pod, definitely not a bad play. Might have been worth delaying just a little bit, but you know, that's such a hard call to make.
Kyung also will pass on that bottle. I don't. Again, if you already have 2, it's usually enough. Most of these runners are probably only just the 1 to check the sick kit.
Absolutely. We will get to see what's on Catfish from Kyong, so that'll be an exciting check. And he does have the mirror. I don't know if he
doesn't have flippers yet.
True, but I think he might not. Did he go do all the way to Zora? Or was that just Duke that did that?
Only one of our runners checked Zora, as far as
I think it was DukeFireBird, but Kyong will at least be able to get Catfish and the Zora check.
Now, if PikaPals wants to continue here, he doesn't have the bow yet, so he's going to have to burn a key here on this front door. So he's now going to need 5 keys if he wants to complete this dungeon. But then again, it is a pendant, so Helmasar might not be required.
I think also with 4 keys so early, you know, you got to be willing to think that there's something here. You know, we're definitely getting a lot of clues pointing in the pod direction.
Duke checking the spot we haven't seen yet, top of Graveyard Ledge, and PikaPals finding our first shield behind the vanilla big key chest here in pod.
Now, one thing that's worth pointing out, it's really because he opened the vanilla big key chest that he now needs 5 keys to do the dungeon. One option that these players do have is to skip that chest for now and hold on to a key in reserve. So that they can come back and beat the boss later if they need to. But I don't think, you know, in this situation, he might be thinking, screw it, we're going to assume we don't need to beat Helmasaur down the line.
Oh, vanilla map in pod.
Alrighty.
But like we already said, we already noticed the green pendant thanks to talking to Sahashala.
Yep. Looks like we're not going to get the hammer yump here, although he may route the what we call the harmless hellway.
Ooh,
oh my goodness!
Pod.
Wow.
So required opening middle door here in pod.
Wow. I mean, that's just hugely fortunate. You know, I mean, I gotta say that's just one of those great things that happen sometimes in Randomizer. You know, you want to have what you need before you go into a dungeon, but sometimes the game just does this.
And sometimes the game is kind to us and shows us what the items are in the dark room, even though usually some items you can't see. This time we saw a piece of heart and a blue rupee.
Yep.
So now Pika can check every chest in here except for killing Helmasaur.
That's correct.
Assuming he knows Dark Maze, which I think he does, he's going to set the hammer yump now.
Absolutely. And I think that with the hammer yump, the first 2 chests are actually really quite easy to get to, and it's really just about that top left chest in this dark maze that can be a little bit finicky, but not too bad.
I think he's in between pixels here, but I think that's good. Got it.
There we go.
But he does have the big key.
All right.
Also, no, we have not found a sword yet.
Very, very true.
So SlimKirby is going to make the play towards that middle chest here in Skullwoods. He'll get his flippers.
Yep. In Keysanity, as in open mode, they have very similar rules in this format, and definitely comfort without a sword can be a pretty big differentiator in terms of runner performance, because you never know. Sometimes you go an hour without a sword.
Oh, this was a small key that Duke's getting now from Lake Highly Island. I forgot about this one. And it is... Ooh, the swamp key!
Oh my goodness. Well, given the items that he has, I mean, he has everything he needs to get in and do that dungeon. You can't get the big chest, but...
No, they have the big key. They have everything they need to full clear.
Do they have... Oh, they do have the Swamp House big key.
Well, the only thing is
wow.
You're going to use the menu strats to kill Argus because no sword.
I mean, that's the type of thing where if you're in go mode, or close to it, well, if you're in go mode, you wouldn't be doing those menu strats. But while it is slower than the sort of standard fight with a sword, if this is the play, it's still a huge time savings being able to come here early.
Pika took a death in the Dark Maze. I didn't see if or what he got from any of the chests in there, but he's now going to open the bow lock chests.
Yep. And again, this is just another one of I mean, I gotta say, this is another location, that Lake Hylia Island. That's not a convenient check. It's not something that people routinely make a priority. So, this is just potentially a really huge play going and grabbing that.
I think because these guys have access to the Dark World from the portal, the Hammerlock portal, it won't be too hard. But again, this is going to hurt Kyong because if that Fire Rod is sitting in Swamp, he might not check to get those slippers for a long time.
Absolutely.
We got the Skull Woods big key. I don't know if it's at the big chest though.
So Duke opting to use the hammer on those things.
A vanilla key and pod, so that's where the fifth pod key is.
Fantastic. Yeah, opting to use the hammer on those things is for fun and profit. Can be interesting. The hook shot actually does one-shot them.
So chat's pointing out, Pika has sword. So there was a sword in the Dark Maze.
That must have been that one of those invisible items that I think we didn't see.
Yeah. Kyong falling down the middle hole, which is going to send him down two floors.
Yeah, that is a bummer. So Duke's going to be... Sorry. Duke's going to be making his way into the kind of the main section of Swamp Palace here. He's a little bit low on health, but it'll be interesting to see how he routes this. A lot of players will opt to try and skip the left part of the dungeon. This early into the seed, though, I think you really, have to wonder about that full clear, and, I doubt we'll be seeing a left side swamp skip right now. And it is actually faster to do left side first if you're going to full clear the dungeon.
Oh, Kyong getting trolled by this mold dorm, or as we like to call them nowadays, troll dorm.
It's for a reason, even very, very, very good runners can get trolled by Troll Dorm. There is no question.
Especially if they use the hammer, because, again, like I said earlier, the hitboxes are really tough with that hammer.
Yep. There is actually a strat with sword that will prevent you from ever falling if you're consistent with it, but with the hammer, there is no such luck.
So Duke found the map for Desert. So we can now see if there is a pendant or a crystal. And a vanilla small key that's not necessary in the big chest in Skullwoods. Well, thanks, game.
Yep. How generous. Interesting. So Kirby showing off the bush route here through the graveyard in the Dark World. This is actually one of the things that trips up newer runners a lot, is knowing that you can actually get to this north of graveyard ledge without the Titan's Mitts. Or the boots.
So Kyung's the first one up to Death Mountain with the mitts, so he's going to be able to check a few more areas that we haven't seen yet, including with the medallion as Turtle Rock and its ether, which we already have.
And we got the red boomerang north of graveyard, which it's unfortunate. It's the worst boomerang.
Yeah,
you want that blue boomerang. That's the cool one.
Yeah, we don't like laggy frames here, guys. Alright, so here's a Hookshot Cave on Kyung's side. Again, we're still technically in sequence break because we don't have the lamp yet.
Oh, we're all over. We've been all over the sequence break situation.
GT Big Key, Hookshot Cave.
Oh my goodness.
The only one who hasn't sequence broke yet Duke.
It's true.
Big Key to Ice Palace. So a lot of league need that, but these runners, they all know the Ice Palace button jump. They're not going to need it to beat the sea, really. Kyung's going for that item, Floating Island. I didn't see what it was. Ooh,
Yeah.
Ooh, the small key to Thieves Town is in Swamp.
Oh my goodness.
So if that item has something that's required, well, it's already probably a required double dip into Swamp because she's on into Thieves Town. So I haven't seen the key yet.
Actually, it's really interesting, the key logic for all the different dungeons. You know, Thieves is one where the vast majority of the dungeon is blocked behind the big key, actually, which is pretty rare. Swamp is the other extreme, you know, with the one small key that gives you the whole dungeon. And both can be really profitable.
Floating Island had a small key for Turtle Rock, which is now 3 that we've seen.
Well, the dungeon is now beatable once they get the fire rod, but
King of Burn on Super Bunny Cave.
you have to wonder if that's going to lead to a Spike Cave check in the near future.
Yeah, I would think that might be Kyung's next play because he's already checked Hera. He's gonna head straight over to. Oh, he's gonna do a Spiral Cave first. We'll get his book.
Yeah, these are two vocations that, you know, a lot of the time you end up kind of making the 50-50 call between them. They're both just about as inconvenient when you're up here doing the combo route, and it's hard to check both of them without a save and quit. Or annoying to check both of them without a save and quit.
Kyung gets his book from the Spiral Cave. Kirby's going up towards Zora. And PikaPals heading over toward the digging game.
Yep, and with Duke, we should be getting hopefully to the end of Swamp Palace here in just a second, but
Kirby going to... Oh, he's just gonna... Okay, I see what he's doing now. He wants to stay in this area. He's gonna not do the thing. PikaPal's gonna get his Titan's Mitts here now from K45. South of Haunted Grove, whatever you guys want to call it.
Oh, I see. So he wanted to take his warp back and head back south, which is an interesting choice, given the nature of the Dark World access that they've got right now.
Yeah, I think he's probably going to head over to Pod next because, well, we know that that's a place that has a lot of good items right now that he'll definitely want to be able to grab. Up and
Absolutely.
Duke's back, and he's fighting Argus. We missed out what that the one chest was. Looks like.
Yeah, we'll have to wait for an inventory check, but there we got one. Hopefully our tracker is screenshotting.
Nothing, yeah. Well, one thing I noticed that is on the pause screen that's not on Duke's tracker is a second Meyer small key, so it might be that.
This phase of the Argus fight can definitely be a little bit tricky with the hammer.
If you had more magic, I would say bring out the ice rod.
Yes, but he's a little bit low, so he's going to end up hammering, I think, no matter what.
So, oh, and there's a lamp. So now wow. Duke's going to be in logic to grab everything, and oh, it's another pendant. Also, note, Kyong did in fact just check out what the Ethos tablet was. It's the second Aghanim's Tower key.
Interesting. Well, I mean, at this point...
I don't think we're going to need that, because there's nothing behind Aghanim and we have full Dark World access, so that's not going to be necessary.
Well, that's got to be a relief, so...
Yeah, so now that Duke has his lamp, now he can logically do everything that the other three have done, breaking the logic. And Kyong finds a sword in Spike Cave, so that's now 2 swords we know about.
All right. Well, hopefully that means that the hunt for Master Sword at the end of the game will not be too terribly onerous. Spike Cave will have been in the logic for a while once they get that Cane of Burna.
Yeah. Well, Spike Cave is one place that a lot of people might not check, and if Bo is these guys' go items, they might not get that sword in the Dark Maze that PikaPals got.
Sure.
SlimKirby is going to grab his Swamp Palace small key, so he's probably going to head there next. Now that he has that lamp, he's going to go. DukeFireBird's going to go check the back of Escape, the one chest. So it looks like Duke is part of. I mean, I think this way also. I don't want to logic break if I don't have to. So he didn't logic break the lamp. Now he's going to check all the lamp lock spots. Now that he's got the lamp.
Yeah, and I think that this is such a great, example of the differing playstyles that Rando offers up. Because I'm the type of person where I will absolutely sequence break if I'm in the area. So if I won't go into Escape without going to the back, for example. But everybody has a different way of doing it, and none of them are right. None of them are right, none of them are wrong.
Hey, DukeFireBird got rewarded big time with that check. He got the single arrow.
Absolutely.
So, PikaPals
arguably the most important item in the game.
Oh, yes, definitely. PikaPals, he did in fact check Vamos tablet. It was just pocket change, move right along. Kyong, interestingly enough, look at this. He's going into Turtle Rock.
I told you, this early Turtle Rock play, I think potentially pretty good.
Yeah. So here's the problems, though. He has no sword, and he's going without a fire rod, so it's going to be really hard. Not only to, he can't get the right side, but killing these Pokies. Never mind,
not a problem. So there you go.
Never mind, he has the fire rod now. Forget everything I said.
I'm telling you, that early T-Rock play, when you got 2 out of 3 medallions and everything you need, he doesn't even have to skip out on the right side now. So this is a pretty potentially huge play for him.
He can full clear this dungeon, skipping a chest, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But he can full clear this dungeon with what he has now, using the hammer strats on Trinex.
Yeah, what we're going to see here is basically what we would ordinarily call Go mode Turtle Rock. The only difference is that in this particular case, it's not by choice.
Yeah, you're skipping one chest. You're just gambling that the vanilla big key chest doesn't have anything. PikaPals might be right behind. He's opening up Turtle Rock as well. And we know this probably will pay off because getting that fire rod's really important.
Yeah, I do think we just got the map of Ganon's Tower, which is always helpful to know whether it's a crystal or a pendant. So we've got that information now.
In fact, Kyong does have a sword. He has the fighter sword because you need the fighter sword to open it up.
Ah, that's true. That's a good point.
The tracker has not marked it off on his tracker just yet. But yeah, using the fire rods. I think it's half magic too. I didn't even see him grab that.
Yeah.
Where was half magic?
It's a great question. I think, we've...
Commentating quad races is tough, guys. Trust us.
I think quad races plus dark rooms, is can be a challenge.
Yeah, it could be dark room.
Because I don't know if half magic is one of the ones that's invisible in the dark. I think it depends on which palette the item uses, so... Half magic and hookshot cave, apparently.
Oh, it might have been the first chest because I think we missed that. Or maybe not. I know we had this chest had some good. Oh yeah, Gannis Tower
Yeah.
key. That's pretty good.
Very good. So I guess
Oh,
it's
I
gonna
think
be
these
the last chest.
we missed the shield, and I think this we have magic. Yeah, okay.
There we go.
You know what it was? I got too hyped from finding the Gannis Tower big key. And
You
missed
know,
those
I
last
think
two, which were also pretty good.
I think we all did. That Ganon's Tower big key is, you're so relieved when you find that as a runner in Keysanity, because the worst feeling in the world is getting to the end of the seed, being all ready to go, but missing that key. And it's a really hard choice as to whether you continue searching the world or just go rush GT. And it's a high risk situation.
Yeah, especially when, that key can be literally in anywhere in the world except for the full chest upstairs in Ganon's Tower, or the big chest in Ganon's Tower. So there's 5 places it can't be out of 216. Go figure.
Yeah, it is not a fun hunt. The worst case scenario is when you get into like kind of a jet seed situation. So you've got so many locations still remaining to be checked, and that's what you're missing.
Pika diving into Turtle Rock. Kirby might not be far behind because he just got his 3rd, or only his 2nd. All right, he has 2.
So very importantly, Kyong just got the good boomerang. So we are all set now. We can continue to play the game. So we're good.
Everything is fine. Nothing is ruined.
Absolutely.
Smoky to ice. That's not necessary, but very helpful.
It makes routing in that dungeon substantially more pleasant. Being able to just check that, hammer ordinarily hookshot blocked location immediately without having to route around and do shenanigans. It's a huge win. Kyong grabbing the iframes off of the blocks to go get that left chest, and then finding infinite iframes until he runs out of magic.
Yeah, not
on the
infinite.
other side of it. So
that's about 20 seconds with the half magic, I'd say.
Yeah.
Oh, this is another easy dark room if you know what you're doing.
Yeah, this is actually one of the easiest dark rooms in the game because it's 100% predictable, and all you have to do is hold a couple directions. But you do have to know what you're doing in there, and
if you make one wrong turn, you're done.
Yeah, you're not done. It's even if you're pretty comfortable in that room, recovering from a failure in that dark room can be confusing.
I'm sure these guys will be wondering where the heck this lamp is, and Kirby's gonna find out in a few minutes because he's now in Swamp Palace.
Absolutely. It looks like Kyong's gonna take the safety entrance, which going in without a decent sword, I don't blame him at all. I'm assuming we'll be using either Cape or Burna for the lasers, because doing that laser skip, as we call it, without the boots is pretty challenging. Hey, Red Mail.
Red Mail's a nice upgrade. How about a Red Rupee?
We might be a little bit short of magic for the I think he just realized that he's it's getting tight.
Yeah. Phrasing.
Oh. Rambler. Alright,
he's got to be careful here, down to 1 heart. But it's not going to be a huge loss because he's just going to respawn right by this.
No, at this point, I think, if it were me, I would just go ahead and just use Burna and then take the death. Oh, he made it. GG.
Now he's going to take the death to get a heart refill.
The good thing is that when you head into the room that he's about to go, there is a full magic refill just before the boss, so...
Yeah, especially when you're going to be fighting this boss assuming with the hammer.
Yeah. And with half magic, the beam shots are not really going to be very risky. He's going to have to hammer the left side head, but he can actually, because of the way that Fire Rod does damage on this boss, he can probably just finish the fight with the Fire Rod on the blue head. So
yeah, that's definitely something that I've done in the past, and I'm sure he'll probably do as well. The other 3 runners just drinking water, doing things. Like I said, Duke now the only one doing all this in logic with the lamp.
Yeah.
Kirby going through swamp, which Duke's already been in. Pika basically right behind Kyong.
So Kyong doing a great job, Kyong doing a great job of getting the quick menu in there to make sure that he was able to get his item switched over before he was locked out of his item menu.
Yeah.
Not a complicated strat, but it's definitely one that requires practice and really good timing.
Yeah, basically, if once you kill one of the Trinex heads, you won't be able to pause until the animation of the head being put away is done. You have to be careful here. Even with the red mail, Trinex hurts. 2 hearts per hit, so he's down to 1 hit left, but gets done. Nice kill by Kyong.
Yeah, very nicely done.
It's rewarded with a map. Oh, really? The map for Turtle Rock after you...
Well, it's like a souvenir, you know.
Yeah.
It's a.
I mean, they already knew because they knew it was the red crystal, but yeah, getting the information. Okay.
Yeah, it's a commemorative map. They're available in the gift shop by the lobby.
All right, that's gonna be interesting to see what Kyung's next play gonna be. Still no bow. He has to go into pod for that. Still no flippers. He has to go. That's probably where he'll go now. Now he has a fire rod. He'll probably finish off Skullwoods now. So he will get the. Does he not have the book yet? I have to bring his name back up.
I don't believe that he does. No.
A spike cave or a spiral cave. That was something that was easily checked. Oh yeah, he checked the Ether tablet. He definitely has the book.
Okay.
So he's probably gonna do Skullwoods. He'll get the flippers. Then he'll probably kill Montula. He'll also give us our long-awaited ped check.
Maybe, you know, that ped check is it's always advisable to get, especially when you're at Skullwoods, but
No, that especially because we already have the we already completed Tower of Hera. Swamp Palace is easily accessible, and Pod we just need the big key for.
sure.
Those are our 3 pendant dungeons. Everything else is crystals.
So let's see, what would we potentially be worried about seeing on the ped at this point?
I mean, the boots, but I don't think we need the boots at this point because we already have everything else we need.
Yeah.
Silver, same situation.
We know Swamp Palace small key is out of the equation.
The flute. That's the one thing that's probably could be
Flute would be bad, or maybe that Thieves Town big key.
Thieves Town big key's a good one, yes. Everything else, I think that's the only things that would be necessary. The flute, Bombos, if Bombos is necessary for Meyer, and the Thieves Town big key.
Yeah, I'll be pretty shocked if we end up needing another medallion. Not, you know, I wouldn't bet money on it, but we've got pretty good odds at this point that we're going to be good to go.
All right, we're going to see what this chest was that we didn't get to see on Duke's side because the screen froze. Oh, it's just a piece of heart.
And coming into this Gibdo room and Skullwoods with half magic is always kind of a pleasure. You really just get to kind of go ham on these guys and just melt them. It's really satisfying.
So entering his Argus fight, Kyung entering his Mothra fight, and PikaPals leaving his Trinex fight.
And Kyong gonna try and get as many of these fire rod hits off as he can. He will switch to the hammer once he runs out, I'm sure, but definitely the more of this fight you can get done. It does look like he's out of magic.
Duke's about to get his Canis Maria from the blacksmith, so that's going to be good for him.
And nicely done.
Very nice kill by Kyung.
And unfortunately, just 10 arrows. Not what he was hoping for out of the back of there, but...
PikaPals had no Spike Cave, so he'll be the first of our runners to sit with Master Sword.
Yeah, and that is a huge upgrade, especially in the Dark World. You know, that fighter sword is not really built for the Dark World, and Master Sword isn't amazing, but it's a huge, huge upgrade.
last chest here in Swamp we find. Ooh, the Harris small key. That's a troll.
Interesting.
All right.
Those are the worst, keys to get because they're just the little one-off locations. And when you always want to go and try and do high volume locations, get what you can out of them. But the risk you run when you do that before you can clear the whole thing is that you turn a high volume attractive location into a very unattractive single item location. And when you find something important in those single item locations, you kick yourself a little bit if you didn't have to go when you did.
Yep. Kyong checks the pedestal, sees as just a heart container. The pedestal dream is dead.
Well, as a runner, I say thank goodness, but to chat, I'm sorry for your loss.
Yep, my thoughts exactly. Oh, I think Duke wanted to Freed Bomb was happening next, so I just jumped off.
Oh no.
He doesn't need it, but he might want to go back and check it later. It might cost him some time.
Yeah. It's like me dying on the way to Catfish. When you walk past a location, try to check it, and something good sticks in the back of your brain the whole rest of the scene, you always got to wonder.
Alright, so Kyung's gonna be the first one to get this bumper cave small key. He's the only one, the first one to have the key.
It'll be interesting to see what we get up here. I'm trying to think what small keys we're actually terribly concerned about at this point. A desert key would be nice to have.
I think it's the only one that's really, maybe the 6th pod key. We'll find out.
Turtle Rock.
The 4th Turtle Rock key. So now we can open up the, wait. Oh, the cape was, oh man, if this is required double up Turtle Rock. Because the cape was in Turtle Rock.
Yep.
Turtle Rock is within the logic, guys, with the lamp, with where the lamp was.
Yeah.
So Kyung just hasn't been to. He just got the flippers recently, so he hasn't done the flippers place yet.
Yeah. From his perspective, he is in a sequence break. From what we know, even though he is out of sequence, he's not actually diverged from the intended sequence in a meaningful way.
Yeah, the only thing that is out of sequence is basically Swamp Palace. Because Swamp House has the lamp. And what we're looking for now, well, SlimKirby is now in pod, so he'll get his bow in here. What we're missing right now for us as commentators of these 4 guys is the Thieves Town big key and the flute. I think that's it.
Pretty much. We do have the Misery Mire big key, so yeah.
And we also need the Desert Palace big key. We don't have that yet.
Yeah. Now, Chad is pointing out DukeFireBird did an interesting thing, which is that he actually stole a key from the back of Desert Palace to go check the right-hand side. It's an interesting play because the torch was nothing. We can now rest assured that that small key is going to be outside of the dungeon, but it's always an interesting play.
Kyung now heading over towards the Lake Hallie Island. He's going to get his Swamp small key, and I assume that'll be his next destination. And I'll go to Ho first. Get $50 for him.
Anytime you're routing some of these time-consuming locations, you always want to get everything done if you can. While you can have a very small time save on one trip by not doing them, clearing a location and taking it out of your mind is a nice global time save.
Looks like Duke is gonna head back towards. He's gonna probably dip into Turtle Rock next, so he's back on the right track. Again, he's the only one that's been in Logic the entire time. So this is what the team's wanting to do, and he's pretty much caught up now once he gets Turtle Rock done.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely hasn't been idle. We're checking useless. It's just been a different ordering for him.
Yeah, he was the first one to get into Swamp. He was the first one to. I think that's the only thing he really did first, as opposed to other things. Like Kyong is now just checking Waterfall Ferry now. Meanwhile, the other runners have done that like 40 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Again, that's part of the. He never had the flippers. Kirby trying to set up the hammering up here. Let's go 1 pixel up. Yeah, he missed it.
Depending on which lineup our players are using, it can be challenging